There is something happening inside your body right now that most people, including many physicians, have never been told about. And when I came across the research behind it, it genuinely reshaped every single conversation I have with my patients. Not just those who have received a cancer diagnosis, but every person who walks through my door. I'm Dr. Leana, a board-certified primary care physician, and what I want to share with you today is not a new pharmaceutical, not an experimental therapy, and not something discovered under a microscope in a laboratory. It is something your body already has the capacity to do. When performed in a specific and intentional way, it creates conditions inside your body that cancer cells find extraordinarily difficult to endure. Let me be honest with you before we go any further. This is not a cure, and nothing in medicine comes with absolute guarantees because human biology is too complex and too individual for that. But what the evidence does show, clearly and consistently, is that this is one of the very few things known to be beneficial across every phase of the cancer journey. From lowering the risk of it ever developing, to helping the body endure treatment, to reducing the likelihood of it returning once treatment is complete. So let me walk you through what the research actually found, because the mechanism is far more surprising than most people expect. Scientists working with cancer cells published their findings in two of the most rigorous and respected scientific journals in the world, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and Nature Communications. Their goal was to understand what happens to cancer cells when blood circulates through the body with speed and force. They exposed cancer cells to conditions that replicated what occurs in the body during intense physical exertion, and the results were striking. The faster and more forcefully blood moved, the fewer cancer cells managed to survive. To understand why that is so significant, you need to understand how cancer actually kills most people. The original tumor is rarely what proves fatal. It is the process called metastasis, where cancer cells detach from the primary tumor, enter the bloodstream, and travel through the body to colonize other organs. That is what takes lives. And what these studies revealed is that when blood is circulating rapidly and powerfully, cancer cells attempting that journey face conditions they struggle enormously to survive. Imagine the difference between trying to swim across a glassy, still lake and trying to cross a churning, powerful river. The still lake is manageable, but the river presents an entirely different challenge. Vigorous exercise transforms your circulatory system into that rushing river. We cannot say with certainty that this completely stops cancer from spreading, but the evidence tells us it makes the journey dramatically more hostile for cancer cells, and that matters more than people realize. The second reason physical movement is so consequential for cancer is what it does to your immune system. Think of your immune system as a highly trained security force whose primary job is to move continuously through your body, searching for cells that have malfunctioned or gone rogue, which is essentially what cancer cells are. When that security force is not regularly activated, it becomes less vigilant and less effective. Exercise is what keeps it sharp and ready. When you move your body with intensity, it triggers the release of natural killer cells, which are the immune system's first line of defense against cancerous cells, along with cytotoxic T cells, which function like specialized hunters that seek out and destroy cells that have undergone malignant changes. Research shows that exercise increases how many of these immune cells actually penetrate tumor tissue directly, and patients who maintain consistent physical activity following cancer treatment demonstrate markedly superior immune function in the years that follow. A security team that is regularly activated catches threats earlier and handles them more effectively, and that is precisely what exercise does to your immune defenses. A third mechanism is perhaps the most underappreciated, and it has to do with the internal environment in which cancer cells attempt to grow and thrive. Cancer does not grow in isolation. It grows within a biological environment, and the nature of that environment determines how easily it can establish itself and spread. Two of the most powerful factors that create a hospitable environment for cancer are chronically elevated insulin levels and persistent systemic inflammation. High insulin functions like a continuous growth signal sent to cells throughout the body, and cancer cells are particularly responsive to it. Chronic inflammation, meanwhile, acts like a slow-burning fire inside your tissues, gradually degrading the body's natural defenses and creating conditions in which abnormal cells can more easily take hold. Exercise directly and measurably reduces both of these factors. It lowers circulating insulin levels and suppresses the inflammatory markers that create that permissive environment. Cancer cells prefer a warm, calm, well-nourished environment, and exercise systematically dismantles exactly that, making the internal landscape colder, more turbulent, and more resource-scarce for them. You are not attacking cancer cells directly, but you are steadily making the environment they depend on less and less survivable for them over time, and that cumulative pressure matters enormously. The fourth mechanism does not involve exercise directly, but rather what consistent exercise produces in your body, and it is something that even well-informed people in medical circles do not discuss nearly enough: muscle. Cancer treatment, as it currently exists, is brutally demanding on the body. Chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation all extract an enormous physical toll, and one of the heaviest tolls they take is on muscle tissue. Patients undergoing active treatment frequently lose significant muscle mass, and imaging studies conducted on patients during and after treatment reveal something profoundly important. Those who begin treatment with greater muscle mass and those who manage to preserve more of it throughout the process consistently achieve better outcomes, not just in terms of physical recovery, but in how well their bodies tolerate treatment, how quickly they bounce back, how robustly their immune systems function, and critically, in their long-term survival rates. Building and maintaining muscle is not merely a fitness objective in this context. It is a biological survival strategy, and it deserves to be treated as one. For those working to preserve or build muscle mass, creatine monohydrate is among the most extensively researched and rigorously studied supplements available for helping the body maintain muscle under physical stress. And I will link to a high-quality, affordable option in the description below. Now, let me give you something concrete and actionable, and I want to break it down according to where you currently are in your relationship with this disease. If your primary focus is prevention, which I suspect is true for the majority of people watching this, the research is most definitive here. You need both aerobic training and resistance training working in combination, not one or the other. Aerobic activity, whether that means brisk walking, cycling, swimming, or running, is what generates the high-velocity blood flow that creates such a hostile environment for circulating cancer cells. Resistance training, whether through weights, body weight movements, or resistance bands, is what constructs and preserves the muscle mass that becomes so critical during any health crisis. A reasonable starting point for someone beginning this kind of program is a minimum of 100 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic work per week, combined with 2 to 3 resistance training sessions per week. Within those sessions, include periods of genuinely hard effort, the kind that challenges you meaningfully, because that intensity level is what triggers the high blood flow effect the research identifies as particularly protective. Doing this consistently over years, not just weeks, is where the evidence is strongest. If you are currently in active treatment, the goal shifts considerably. You are not trying to get fit right now. You are trying to hold on to what you have, to preserve as much muscle and functional strength as possible so that your body can continue enduring and responding to treatment. In practical terms, this means light to moderate resistance work. Even very light weights or resistance bands can make a meaningful difference, along with gentle walking on days when you feel well enough. Do not attempt to push through severe symptoms, but do return to movement as soon as your body allows, because extended periods of complete rest make recovery significantly harder and slower. Speak with your physician about what is appropriate for your specific situation and treatment protocol. And if you are a survivor, first of all, what you have accomplished is genuinely extraordinary. Your goal now is to rebuild, systematically and patiently. Treatment depleted your body's reserves across every dimension, and your work is to restore them gradually, progressively, and consistently. Begin with walking and gentle resistance work if that is your current baseline, and add intensity gradually as your capacity grows, with particular emphasis on rebuilding muscle, because muscle is the reserve tank that protects and supports every other system in your body. Measure your progress in months and years, not days and weeks, and extend yourself the patience that real recovery requires. I want to be clear about one thing as we close. Not every type of cancer responds identically to what the research shows. Not every person can exercise at the same level, particularly during treatment, and certain situations, especially those involving bone metastases, require additional caution to avoid injury. But the weight of the evidence is strong enough and clear enough to justify starting to act on it today. The cost of continuing to treat exercise as optional, as something nice to do when convenient, is too high to keep paying. If this changed the way you think about what your body is capable of and what you can do to protect it, please consider subscribing because it genuinely helps this information reach the people who need it most. If you know someone navigating a cancer diagnosis right now, please share this with them because it may make a real and meaningful difference in their outcome. For those who want a complete and detailed roadmap covering the dietary choices, specific supplements, and exercise approaches that best support cancer prevention and metabolic health, I have compiled all of that into a free resource called the Metabolic Blueprint, and you can access it through the link below.